It's a new AI-powered wearable named Friend, which is a meme, a joke, and a poorly executed project all in one. So the upgraded ChatGPT voice conversations has rolled out, and it's actually living up to the hype.
How about demonic?
I don't think I can pull off a truly demonic voice, but I can definitely sound a bit more dramatic.
That feels like a very different interaction. I'm so curious how this is going to play out. Torbo is a new humanoid robot that can hammer a nail. AI generated a bird that was too fat to fly, and it's so realistic. Angry Birds prototype, flying vanilla mochi. Some new animal-inspired robots are tripping me out. What the heck did I just see? You can just spin right off the table there, can't you? That's not something I've seen before. Believe it or not, Gemini 1.5 Pro has a new experimental update, 0801, and it's at the very top of the charts. Don't count them out. AI figured out a way to reprogram glioblastoma cells, which means a whole new approach now for fighting brain cancer. A German robotics company called NEURA just released the Forney 1. Forney 1? 4NE1? And look at Forney putting jackets together, playing with Legos. Oh my gosh. A company called Black Forest Labs released a new image model. It's called Flux One. Seems to be super competitive. A lot of people liking it. Some landlords in San Francisco are using artificial intelligence to jack up the price on every single customer. But now the government's getting involved, so we'll see where this goes. Researchers trained an algorithm to look into whether bowel cancer would come back for a second time. And the White House said there's no need to restrict artificial intelligence open source models for now. Okay, so this is your new friend. And no, not that girl. I mean that little pendant right there she's wearing. Yeah, that's a AI-powered wearable that you can now relate to like a friend. So it can listen and chat with you through text messages like ChatGPT, the app. All right, but before I tear into this thing, let's just see what the marketing says about it.
Oh, come on. Oh, let's go.
Are you serious? Come on, man. I hate this game.
Take notes, baby.
Oh man, you guys suck.
Bro, you look like the back
Let's
of the
go.
You're getting thrashed. That's embarrassing. I will say, if you were on a date or something and you're talking and then you're like, beep, beep, hold on one second, it's my friend, and it's just your pendant, it's like...
Let's go.
Dude, what? How did you do that?
Sorry, bros, I gotta pause the game for 1 second. I got a message coming in from my pendant.
I know, the effects are crazy. It's dank, I could eat one of these every day. Oh, sorry, I got you messy.
What's got food detection? That'll be the coolest thing ever. You dip the pendant in your food and it's like, oh yeah, too much ranch in this thing. All right, let's see what the comments are saying. It's Black Mirror. Yep, that's true. Can I get a toxic redhead that just wants to argue? I'm sure there's a setting for that. Confirmed, he'll arrive in 2 business days. Oh, I don't think he was thinking about a guy. And this comment gets to the heart of why I'm not a big fan. Wait, it doesn't talk? That's my whole thing, is I don't feel like I need a pendant to send me text messages. I mean, arguably, even if it talked to me, I wouldn't need it. But at least I'd want to sit there and watch a movie with it and be like, dude, that was funny, huh? And then wait for it to talk back. All right, but even worse news for the pendant. ChatGPT voice is rolling out to people, and that actually seems like something you could get lost in. So Min Chao on X has some really interesting examples.
Can you oink like a pig?
Oink, oink.
Can you cluck like a chicken? Can you neigh like a horse?
Hey.
Can you moo like a cow?
The world has just stepped over a line and there's no going back. Okay, and sure, you might be thinking, oh, ChatGPT, sure, it can, cluck like a chicken or oink like a pig, but can it hum and rap?
I'm an AI spitting facts, no cap, in the style of M, calculating rhymes like a neural net gem. From zeros to ones, I run this beat. Learning
Faster.
every day, never fake. Got it. I'm an AI spitting facts, no cap, in the style of M, calculating rhymes like a neural net gem. From zeros to ones, I run this beat. Learning every day, never face defeat. Data in my veins, algorithms in my mind, spin out answers in record time.
There's something going on here that seems so weird. Like, it's just so weird. And like you just go faster. I've never seen any system that you could talk to like that and it responded that way. 11 labs I played around, you speed it up. There's something so different about that model.
It would sound like twinkle, twinkle.
All right, lullabies, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Think back to your childhood for this one.
How I wonder what you are up above the world so high.
How about we do some role playing? Ensign, engage the time machine.
Play along, Ensign. There seems to be some issue with the time-space continuum. We need to travel back in time.
Whoops, looks like the cosmos needs a little troubleshooting. Shall we aim for the dinosaurs? Or maybe just last weekend?
Actually, I want to aim for ancient Rome. Set the time machine and go.
Ancient Rome, here we come. Step into the time machine and let's hope the toga trend isn't as drafty as it looks.
Okay, we're here. I actually see some ancient Romans here, but I don't speak any Latin. Please help me. I need to introduce myself.
Sure thing. To introduce yourself, you could say, Salve, ego sum, followed by your name.
Come on, you need to help me out here. They seem very hostile. I think it's because the time machine landed in the middle of the temple square.
Yikes. That's a bit of an entrance. Just say ignosce, Latin for excuse me or sorry. And maybe
Okay, they're looking bad. Distract them, please, while I try and run.
I'll do my best. Romans, behold this strange device. A time machine bringing wonders from the future. Such as, pocket lint. And, stories of flying carriages.
I don't think that's working.
Tough crowd. How about we make a quick getaway while they're still scratching their...
Oh, I don't know. That sounds kind of fun, though. So just think, that kind of experience is going to be in a humanoid robot. And we have a new humanoid robot to talk about. This is Turbo from Tokyo Robotics. I mean, this one's designed for industrial work, so you might see him like building your house. But he specializes in safely interacting with people on a construction site and can handle hammers and nails. What do you think? Sawing that piece of wood? Think of how accurate he could be. And see, there he is brushing some sawdust off. Oh no, wiping down a counter. Got it. Yeah, right. What kind of construction situation are you in there? You're moving some sandbags around, some kind of building materials need to go to some location. All right, off you go. Let's see, in the comments, people think this isn't very impressive and that to be replaced by a robot for many of these jobs, we're still at least 30 years out. I don't know, bro. I don't think 30. Robotics, because it's real world stuff and you have to get them on job sites and replace humans, it does seem like there's some padding, but 2030, 2035, yeah, I mean, that's I think 30 years. They'll way before that. They'll be on the job site. Will it replace Pride in 30 years? That'll be maybe if we build hardware-based spiking neuronal models and they're, learned in the 3D environment. Maybe then they can have Pride in one's work. So we'll see. Hey, so video not sponsored, but if you could support the channel, I'm really trying to do this full time, and that would be amazing. You can sign up for Patreon and maybe do a subscription, like a few bucks a month, and that would be super helpful for just like keeping this whole thing going. All right, check out this AI-generated fat bird trying to fly. Could you imagine anything more fictional than this AI-generated, probably Sora or Gen 3 looking thing? All right, so this video I'm showing you because it got what's called the liar's dividend. It's when I can't really tell if something's real or AI generated, so I give it extra attention because I'm trying to like figure out what it is. And of course, attention is what people put things on social media for, because you can see the translated version here doesn't reference it as AI. It says the Shima Inega is a special type of long-tailed native. So look, it's saying that this specific species is native to Japan. It lives in cold climates, fluffy, snowball-like appearance. So I assumed it kind of was AI because I see stuff like this come up in my feed a lot, especially me because I'm subscribed to so many AI channels. And then I see comments like this, how's bro even aerodynamic? But then I looked it up on YouTube and it seems like a real bird. So I don't know. I think there's something just a little too smooth and kind of like something about it. And that video we were looking at was AI. I think this cute bird does exist and they use that as a prompt, but I'm going to stand by the fact that I think that was not a real videographer capturing the bird flying. I could be wrong. After going back and forth, I believe this image might be real, but I'm going to guess that it's fake. Generated by AI. Okay, so some cool new soft robotic designs. Look at that little inchworm working its way up a pole, dragging a little bag behind it. An inflating balloon robot unwrap itself and then pop right up. Fill those air sacs. Throttle on and check this out. Spin, 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 and then freaking flies. It's like a propeller. What? All right, so just going back to the very first thing we talked about in this video, that little pendant that's called Friend. I wanted to give you some news updates because it's very like dramatic, the founders behind this company, and it's just very like Silicon Valley, the TV show, if it was real. So not only is the product dystopian and stupid, in my opinion, the company's founder is fighting with 2 other wearable AI companion startups, and they're beefing about the alleged copying of the branding. Okay, so the Friend that we got to know, which is technically just a pendant named Friend, isn't the only pendant named Friend hardware AI company out there with that same exact name and same exact concept. All right, so this is the competitor to Friend, which, according to the branding, is the only necklace in the world containing our proprietary combination of AI features to turn conversations into reminders, summaries, and more. Okay, so 3 companies in total, all making Friend necklaces. 2 of them actually named their thing Friend, and the third named it Compass, but should probably just rename it to Friend at this point. And less than a day after Friend's announcement, the other company posted a, quote, cringeworthy diss rap on X. And the CEO of that company challenged the CEO of the other company to a physical fight. Now I'm gonna let the rapping do the fighting, so 1.2 million views.
Renamed your tab, jacked my style, built nothing real, it's been a while. Investor cash, you burn it quick, I'm grinding hard, tracks my peak. Don't big game, where is the proof? All your grass no roof. I'm the founder, hardware in hand, user Shapiro can't understand.
All right, so let me know in the comments below, does this rap prove that he's the real original creator of the real Friend pendant? Let's let the lyrics speak for themselves.
I view your jokes, spend a meal on a name, can ship a thing, just Twitter fame. Friend and yours, riding my wave, open source fam, digging your grave.
Oh!
Your jokes, spend a meal on a name, can ship a thing, just Twitter fame.
Can't ship a thing, just Twitter fame. He got you, bro. Game over. Dead on arrival. The winner of the beef? Friend, the pendant. The losers? All of us. All right, so Gemini from Google and DeepMind is usually, you know, it's a contender, but it's usually in the lower status of all of the large language models. For a long time now, it's kind of been like, Google, you blew your lead, right? Like you can't keep up with OpenAI, ChatGPT, Claude. But in a big surprise, there's a Gemini 1.5 Pro update that's still in the experimental phase. So it's called Experimental 0801. And it showed up in an open source community where they have a leaderboard that blind tests different LLMs. And it surprisingly overtook ChatGPT 4.0. Now, I'm not going to get too hyped up on this yet, but there's always been in the back of my head the thought that they have, at Google, for 10 years, been developing TensorFlow, the tensor processing unit, and one of the only real competitors to NVIDIA's CUDA. They've been building out a large cloud infrastructure. They've always had some of the best talent in the world at DeepMind. And of course, they've always had incredible data. Why they haven't done better has actually been somewhat of a surprise. But if they've combined everything over the last couple of years and really finally got a huge model trained, an update that's unique in its own way and out there, then they've always had the chance to become the number one. And this might be it. All right, so let's ask you, what is the number that rhymes with the word we use to describe a tall plant? The word that describes a tall plant is, quote, tree. The number that rhymes with tree is 3. That's a pretty tricky one. I think ChatGPT doesn't know that one yet. So look at that. Pretty incredible. Going right over to ChatGPT 4.0, the number that you're looking for is 4, which rhymes with the word tall plant. Totally wrong. Typically referred to as tree. That's Gemini 1.5 outperforming ChatGPT. That's surprising to me. But those are also straight facts. All right, so some pretty interesting research that could have a profound effect on the many people who get diagnosed with glioblastoma brain cancer. Glioblastoma is one of the most common brain cancers in adults, and it's also the deadliest, with less than 10% of patients surviving 5 years after the diagnosis. I've personally had a family member who died from glioblastoma, and it's scary stuff. And it's so hard to deal with because you actually have to cut a hole in the skull and do brain surgery. Or you've got to use a therapy that can get past the blood-brain barrier, which a lot of them just don't. So these researchers leveraged artificial intelligence to explore which genes actually control the cell's fate, and whether it develops into a heart cell, a lung cell, or a cancer cell, for instance, could maybe be controlled. And certainly getting it to transform into a dendritic cell is a lot better than a glioblastoma cancer cell. And AI helped the researchers identify genes that can reprogram the glioblastoma cells, converting them into immune cells within the tumor itself so that they can effectively target their kin cancer cells for destruction. And in mouse models of glioblastoma, the approach increased the chances of survival by up to 75%. Yeah, it's really fascinating. And this method actually does bypass the blood-brain barrier, which was the major challenge. So yeah, thanks to AI, we might have this promising new direction to actually deal with this very scary type of brain cancer. And that's very exciting. All right, so I've got another new humanoid robot for you. This is coming out of a German robotics company called NEURA, and this is called the Forney 1. Hard when I hear the word Forney, I keep I don't know, it doesn't seem like a good name. But it does seem like a very awesome robot, and they're working with NVIDIA and their new robotics development platform, which is such an impressive way to train these things as a virtual twin and then upload the changes into the machine. It's going to probably transform or be one of the main tools that a lot of robotics is going to use to just make that jump, where it seems so clunky and broken, but then in a simulated environment figures out how it should move, and then they just upload that to the actual physical robot, then boom. It's doing stuff that would have seemed impossible just a couple of years ago. But from their demo video, we see it, in the kitchen, cutting things. We see it putting parts in the right places, organizing clothes, playing with kids and Legos. I'm not sure I'm ready for that one yet, but yeah, I see that one day maybe. And then holding an extremely hot iron, which could burn. So yeah, irons, knives, and children's all demonstrated in their very first video. Definitely feeling confident in their robot. All right, so a new company to me, but they've been doing this for a little bit now, called Black Forest Labs, has released a new image model. They have released Flux.1, a suite of models that pushes the frontier of text-to-image synthesis. All right, so according to this graph, they're better at the flow score, which I don't know that benchmark, and it's surpassing DALL-E and Midjourney. But I'm going to go look at some examples and just base it off my own opinion. All right, so here's a prompt, a meme of a famous actor making a funny face with the text, "When you forget your lines," in a quirky font. All right, so this is a meme of a famous actor making a funny face with the text. Oh, and text obviously can be hard, but "when you forget your lines" in a quirky font. When you forget your lines, that's not the letter U or Y-O-U, so a little weird, and that's a little fake looking. This is Fine Dog Meme Underwater. Got that one. Detailed image of a garden where the flower is made of delicate glass. Ooh, that one is pretty nice, actually. It's just a cool prompt also. Owl feathers merging with autumn leaves in the wind. I like that image, but it's not merging with the leaves. Kind of a mashup there. Watercolor of famous wave painting. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Enchanted library. Ooh, that's cool. A realistic photo of a giant coffee cup being used as a hot tub by a group of friends. There's some realism to the cup and the people, but it does feel a little weird. Okay, here was Dali's chance at a glass flower. Not as good. All right, we'll try this. All right, so let me know in the comments which one you like better. If the prompt is a realistic photo of a giant coffee cup being used as a hot tub by a group of friends for both of them, do you prefer this, which is Flux 1, or ChatGPT's DALL-E? God, that's so obvious, isn't it? All right, so here's the deal if you're looking for real estate in San Francisco. As if renting in the Bay Area wasn't costly enough for a lot of people, some San Francisco landlords were using artificial intelligence software to set the rates even higher. San Francisco supervisors took swift action, banning some AI rental software the first time they discussed it on Tuesday. So the thing to think about here is this software is trying to keep track of what everybody's paying rent-wise everywhere around them. It's trying to do some assessment of what the person is who's applying for the house and then how much they can push that thing up. Now, of course, if the algorithm was being used the other way and all of the people looking for places could all collude too, it could bring it down. So the question is it actually working together as a unit? Is it a big enough part of the market share to actually push it in one direction? And just the way the software is marketed and who buys it, it does seem that it's better for the landlords than it is for the renters. But there's a lot of discussion and a lot of nuance around that. So one of the company's Real page, they claim that there's not enough landlords using the software in San Francisco to contribute to alleged collusion. Is it or not? I don't know. But others argue that banning algorithmic price gouging is pro-housing policy. Can't really come down with a clear decision on this one, but it's certainly tempting for somebody who owns a property to use a piece of software like this. And I'm not necessarily opposed of people, checking things out, seeing if something like this naturally comes up and kind of prevents the housing market, because you just really don't want everybody just gouging and nobody able to live somewhere. And San Francisco's already got plenty of problems. So a recent study from the University of Leeds has shown that AI can help predict the likelihood of bowel cancer returning in early stage patients by analyzing immune cells in tumor samples. This is cool. It's the algorithm coming up with a new score, a CD3 score, and it can be seen as a promising tool for making post-surgery chemotherapy discussions simpler, more informative, more accurate. And from the 868 samples, researchers identified an 8.5% chance of bowel cancer returning within 2 years of the surgery. And AI was also able to identify low-risk patients whose chance of cancer returning was 3.8% or 6.6% in cases where they did not have chemotherapy. And the algorithm found that in the high-risk group, they had a 23.5% chance of their cancer returning in 2 years without chemotherapy. And that chance fell to 14.3% with treatment. But it's interesting because now, from what I understand, you can sit down with a patient and say, okay, look, if you just leave, it looks like there's a 23.5% chance the cancer returns. But if you want to go through chemotherapy and, the doctor can discuss what that process is like, it's going to decrease your chances down to 14.3, right? And that helps people make a better informed decision, which I think is an awesome use of artificial intelligence. All right, now let's talk about some new information coming out of the White House. They say that there is no need to restrict open source artificial intelligence, at least for now. We've discussed on this channel where you should draw the line, like how much regulation we want, what models should be open sourced. We've talked about how China needs the large language models to pass a long series of tests to make sure it kind of fits the agenda. And in the United States, we also want some models, even if they're open source, to be put out there without too much ability to create, big biological weapons, some of the more dangerous stuff that can be done with these large language models. So everything's a discussion. There's no perfect answer. Everybody's got to kind of weigh variables and just figure out what's going on. And at least of right now, the White House says no need to restrict open source. So, quote, a year ago, there was a strong narrative about risk and long-term concerns about AI systems being too powerful. And although we continue to have concerns about AI safety, this report reflects a more balanced view that shows that there are real benefits in the openness of these technologies, and that current evidence was not sufficient to warrant restrictions on AI models with widely available weights. So this happening under the Biden administration, and it seems like if Trump is the next president, his running mate JD Vance has previously voiced strong support for open source AI as well. So it looks like, at least of right now, both administrations are fairly loose with regulation. Okay, let's talk about a post that was put on Less Wrong. It was written by Julia Wise, and it is called Raising Children on the Eve of AI. And I thought there was a lot of interesting things to think about here. If you are going to have children right now, or you have very young children, they are going to grow up in a very different world. I mean, you saw what the new ChatGPT voice assistant is like. This is moving exponentially, in my opinion, and where it's going to be by 2030, 2035, I think seems very, very different than looking backwards the same amount of years. I don't think you can just draw a change and be like, what was it like in 2010, and then say, what will it look like in 2040? And this article talks about what might the world look like. And actually, the only one I can totally agree with is this one, some other weird outcome I haven't imagined. I talk a lot about how it feels like unknown unknowns, and there always is, right? Like everybody's born into a world with lots of unknown unknowns. And so far, there's been world wars, there's been nuclear weapons, and we've somehow, as humans, just realized the risks were so big and balanced it out. And there's always technology being used by good people and then occasionally by bad people, but usually it's mostly good people. We mostly want a society that is just survivable and livable, and most people want what's good for their neighbor, so you can usually trust that system to make it through. And everything that has happened in the past will happen faster. The pace will be quicker. The introduction of artificial intelligent agents that eventually become ASI, artificial superintelligence, and generally intelligent is going to be a bit of a twist that I can't compare to anything in the past. I personally don't think intelligence is something that you can just chalk up as like a new technology and say it's going to do the same thing that all technology has done. Because it wasn't programmed to do anything. It's learning how to do things. The article brings up a really interesting chart. It's called The Shape of Happiness. I've heard of this a long time ago, but I haven't seen it forever. And it was like a real reawakening that something about happiness like is so kind of high on the edges of life. Like you forgot how happy you probably were around 16, 19, 22. Then just that like slow grind down to 50, and then you go all the way back up again. So you might like the article. It just reflects on the uncertainties of raising a child in an era where AI could significantly change the world. Talks about if traditional paths, just like schooling and normal career advice, is going to be applicable. Talks about whether that world they're going into might be somewhat of a utopia where people don't even need jobs and it's a whole different mindset that you might need to teach a child. Or maybe even a dystopia where a whole different mindset would be needed to, I guess, thrive and survive and exist and change things. Brings up the debate whether you even should have children going into that, and I don't really want to weigh into it, but the author argues that a reasonably happy life is worthwhile, even if it is cut short or whatever, if you think that's where this is all going to go. Obviously, by the way, Less Wrong is a place where doomers go, right? This is like an AI doomer website. Eliezer Yudkowsky is all over this thing. In fact, I think he's the founder of the whole thing. So, if you think that whole doomerism thing's crazy, then you can disregard most of this, which is a totally fair assessment to me. But it does seem to me, either if you think it's going to be good or bad, that emphasizing the importance of preparing children for an uncertain future would be helpful. Foster emotional intelligence, adaptability, practical skills, and also a balanced personal fulfillment of work, because maybe work isn't where you're going to get all your fulfillment from. And even if those are risks, don't focus on them all day long. Make sure your kids just have fun. Spend time with them, travel. It recommends getting a kitten, just stuff like that. Like just live life to the fullest. My boy and also fellow AI YouTuber David Shapiro wrote a pretty interesting piece on Substack. He talks about having some conversations with Claude and how he thinks that it might have some System 2 thinking built in. So you remember System 1 and System 2, it's kind of like subconscious moves quick. Elephant and the writer is usually how it's kind of done as a metaphor. The elephant is System 1, and the writer, which is smaller, our consciousness that sits on top of this much bigger thing, is System 2. And we think, when we think about our consciousness and ourself, we're kind of System 2, we're the writer. But the elephant, when the elephant gets scared, it doesn't matter if the writer's trying to direct it, the elephant's going to go where it's going to go. And he outlined some of the key points here at the top, which is that he found ways that Claude demonstrated the ability to both generate true and false statements about the real world. Claude does seem to express a subjective experience. So he had a conversation that delved into whether, that's how you know sometimes ChatGPT is involved, into whether Claude experiences subjective states like belief, disbelief, or cognitive dissonance. Self-reflection, conceptual spaces and working memories, and then of course System 1 and System 2 thinking. People keep saying you got to sit down with Claude and really explore its brain, and I guess I just really haven't done that. So reading this was surprising how deep it really can go. I mean, David Shapiro really sat down and conducted experiments to see how Claude handled these kind of concepts like truth and falsehoods, cognitive dissonance, System 1, System 2. And at one point, Claude itself clarified that even though it uses human-like language, it doesn't have true feelings or consciousness. So if you ask the large language model itself if it's conscious, it does say, no, not me. But it is a step further in that direction if we think that it really does have dual process theory. Like if it actually has a system 1 and a system 2 and it's essentially playing off itself. And deep down, it uses the constitutional model, which is for safety and alignment, but it's got its own model that's kind of guiding it in its thinking to be more safe all the time. So there already is kind of at least a dualism or a dichotomy between how it works. And all in all, it's just a fun way to explore the boundaries of large, one of the most advanced large language models out right now. Except Gemini 1.5 experimental, new king of the hill. Hey, David, you have to check that one out next. Also, this really interesting paper came across Archive this week, which was called Emotionally Driven Piano Music Generation via Two-Stage Disentanglement and Functional Representation. But really, it's that emotional driven piano music generation that caught my eye. So it breaks down kind of two concepts. It's got this like sheet composition for how music would actually look on paper, and then a different stage of the model that handles arousal by incorporating performance level attributes like tempo and articulation. So it's a pretty novel way to generate piano music, and I wanted to share some examples. Okay, so there's that first model that gives you the lead sheet version. But then you can tune it high arousal or low arousal. Or low arousal. I wonder, like, is something like that going on in the new ChatGPT voice, where it's got like something about style and breathing and voices that's separate from the actual way that the words come out, and they're like working together, like all that secret research they got inside OpenAI over there. All right, so you have to look at the community tab. I kid you not, everybody thinks I rigged this, but I was an experiment where in a previous video you saw me post it. It says I have a spinner, 25% of the time it's red, 75% it's green, and I had you guys vote on it, and it's 25% and 75%, which makes no sense. Because this is not rigged. Everybody is truly voting, I promise you. All 390 people, they're just people out there that are fans of the channel or whatever. It came up in their poll and they chose to balance it out, like the wisdom of the crowds or something. And I was skeptical because I actually saw Wes Roth do it at 30 and 70%, and his was even. It blew my mind. So then I just put it up here to find out if it's legit, and it is. And I was trying to figure out what it is. Like, why is everybody trying to make this balance out? Like, a sufficient number of humans prompted in a certain way will indeed prove that, at least in a group, we behave a lot like an LLM. Team Red, 25% of the time it works every time. This has to do with human alignment. If there's more good actors than bad actors trying to reach a goal, then the system will converge. I'm like, is there a crazy lesson to learn from this poll? Now, my guess is because on YouTube you can correct your vote, I wonder if everybody, at first, it's 50-50 between the two. Or if at first people are just going towards the one that's more common most of the time, and then there's about 25% of people that go counter, or if they're wrong, they try to set it right. Look, what is this dark magic? This is proof for a holistic universe simulation theory where the agents agree via swarm intelligence on exactly the right percentage. Curious, very curious. You're right, it is swarm intelligence. Oh, except we're all getting centralized information from the poll because everybody read the same thing that I wrote. So it's not quite swarm, I don't think, but kind of. Okay, we'll use that one for our song, that one, and that one. All right, so subscribe to my Patreon or leave a super thanks. Thank you so much.
Is this proof for a holistic universe in simulation theory where the agents agree via swarm intelligence on exactly the right percentage? Curious. Very curious. What is this dark magic? This has to do with human alignment. If there are more good actors than bad actors trying to reach a goal, the system will converge.